All right, so we're gonna say, oh, okay. Hi, welcome back to Black Digital Media TV. I want to welcome everyone back, and I could not expect to have a better person online with us right now today. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna talk tech, and it's Nathan, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's very knowledgeable in the tech industry. And I'm just looking forward to the show and excited and looking forward to what Nate has to say. Nate?
Well, Laron, I'm incredibly excited. I mean, we've worked together. We have uh, a history of doing some things together. We're fascinating, and I'm even more fascinated about what you have in mind now. I think this digital media has incredible opportunities, and I'm just excited to see where this goes in any way at all that I could contribute, whether just in conversation or engaging folks that we want to, look at this new way of doing things. I'm excited about that.
Well, good. Well, then, late. We want to talk technology, so let's just jump right into it, okay?
Well, I
Why
think the thing that,
don't you kind of give us a little bit more details about yourself and
yes, sir.
kind of get a little bit comfortable in that way? Just kind of let everybody know your background, and we'll start there as well.
Yes, sir. Well, the first thing is I'm even older than LaRon. He's still a young kid, far as I'm concerned, and I've been in high tech most of my life. After I finished college, I went in the Air Force, uh, became a satellite engineer. So, so started out very technical, got into system engineering, project management, those kind of things, and then got a master's degree in information systems. So that's when I kind of started getting on the train of what was going on with technology. So after that, spent my time in the Air Force and ended up working for the military industrial complex for some of the larger corporations that are involved in that. Obviously, very centric on technology as well. Did that for several years, became a consultant, mostly a leadership consultant. So got a bit away from technology, but technology is just moving so fast now, you got to stay connected. So I'm very interested in getting more involved uh, in the technology side. And Laron, it looks like to me you can demonstrate, you can prove some of those ways, or you can show us that there are new ways to use this technology. So I'm absolutely excited about that.
Well,
I've been a
thank you.
Scrum Master for the last couple of years, so I'm starting to do my part, sir. But I need your help as far as directing me and things that I can do to be involved and maybe helping young folks, minorities, and other underrepresented groups to understand there's incredible potential in high tech, and we can surely help them do that.
Well, Nate, I really appreciate that. And like I said, Nate, he didn't know it, but when I met Nate, he immediately became my mentor because he definitely is knowledgeable. He's seasoned in the industry, and he's definitely someone that I immediately knew I could learn from in the industry as well too. So, Nate, let's just kind of jump right into what we're kind of talking about. One of the main things from your perspective, you say you have your degree, master's degree, you were in the military, and you became a consultant. But just from where your perspective is today, where do you see technology going today? From where it is, but where it was, but where you see it actually going today?
Well, Laron, a trend that I've seen over the last few years is many corporations, especially large ones, assume that any major cost savings they can realize will come from shifting resources from here in the United States to offshore.
Mm.
That's a way to do it. I don't believe it's the most effective way. And now that you have a new administration in place, and I'm sure they're going to be trying to figure out how to meet some of the challenges that we're facing, including COVID.
Yes.
Uh, our economy is not where it could be because lots of folks out of work. So who better than a guy like yourself that has the vision of understanding how we can maybe employ more people in America, for God's sake?
Mhm.
Because we
Yeah.
need every able-bodied person to be trying to help solve some of these difficult problems we have. And now with some of the literature I've been reading, if we continue going at the rate we're going, you
Mhm.
won't have enough even offshore people to do the work that needs to be done. So
Wow.
your platform now is even more important because we need every able-bodied person in this country as well that might
Yes.
consider tech to do that. And I think you're providing a way for them to do that and hopefully help them understand how exciting it is to be involved in something like that. So I'm really pleased with what you're doing. And And I think you can provide a real service to a lot of young people that maybe before would not even consider tech. So
Yeah.
I'm real excited about just your vision for America and your vision for young people.
Well, thank you, Nate. You know, my heart has always been, even when I've been over 20 years, like I told you, in the IT industry. And that's why I started my nonprofit organization, was to actually create an opportunity that would bring more Black youth, more Black individuals into IT industry. They talk about a lot of barriers, a lot of discrepancies, a lot of injustices and things like that in the industry as it relates to Blacks. I've seen a lot of those things, you know what I mean? But that's what this platform is about, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I come with you. We've kind of teamed up together to do some things together on the platform. But one of the things you mentioned, that you talked about overseas, a lot of jobs are going overseas, the cost difference. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think sometimes corporations do what is simple or what they think is going to be simple. And
Okay.
if you can find, let's say, a software engineer here that might cost you $70 an hour, and you can
Mm-hmm.
find a similar resource offshore that you might
Mm-hmm.
pay 25 or $30 an hour, that seems like a
Wow.
very reasonable thing to do. But
Mm-hmm.
what I've learned as a consultant and some of the business that I've been involved in, it's not quite that simple. You might
Okay.
gain some advantages by doing that, but
Mm-hmm.
with the culture being as important as it is in most large companies, for
Yes.
people coming on board that don't understand the culture of your organization, you can lose
Mm-hmm.
some of that money you think you gain. So what I've
Right.
done over the last few years is I've
Mm-hmm.
helped some large companies understand that it's not
Okay.
that simple. Let me do you a favor. Even if you want to go offshore, I mean, that's a business decision you get to make. But
Mm-hmm.
let me get in the process and
Yeah.
help bring some of these offshore people up to speed, not
Mm-hmm.
only on the whole being a scrum master, let's say, or software
Yeah.
developer, but
Mm-hmm.
also help them understand this is the culture of this corporation. And if I
Yes.
can do that, which I managed to do pretty effectively,
Mm-hmm.
now I get those people up to speed very quickly, and they don't notice a drop in their overall capacity. So that's
Wow.
what I've done on a personal level. But
Mm-hmm.
as I see that, that has even more opportunities down the road because we still got people in America that need to work as well.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
same thing that I can do for somebody offshore, I can do the same thing in America.
Yeah.
So if people, and sometimes we don't have people flocking to high tech like they do in other countries. They
Right.
see more, here, we're more diverse country. So you might go into the arts,
Yes.
sports, entertainment, all of that. Nothing wrong with all those things. We need all those. But
Yes.
when you got the kind of difficult problems we got to solve now,
Mm-hmm.
somebody needs to roll their sleeves up and help solve some of those problems. You can
Right.
do the other stuff on your own, but help us fix
Yeah.
something like COVID. So we need everybody that can help
Yeah.
and will help to be involved in that. And we want to extend that hand to some young person and say, if you want to make a real difference for your own family, let
Mm-hmm.
us help you do that.
Yes. You know, Nate, as you know, I've worked on some different teams with you, international teams in that thing. You talked about culture. I really, really would like you to hone in on that part a little bit more, because one of the biggest challenges that I've seen when I'm a part of these international teams is culture. And it kind of really affects the way the team cohesively comes together and
Right.
work together on these particular projects. So why is understanding culture, and what are some of the different cultures that you know of that's on some of these teams, and why is that important, that we really begin to understand different cultures when we're working on these various teams internationally and locally?
Well, let me go back a bit to show you how I got involved in organization. That's when I got into consulting.
Okay.
I happened to, when I really got into leadership and change management consulting,
Mm-hmm.
it was right after 9/11. Matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
on 9/11, I was on a plane heading to California and got trapped, up in the atmosphere from them to
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out how to get all the planes back on the ground. In
Mm,
addition to that, I was also working around a lot of the three-letter agencies in DC at the time. So I was involved in right in the middle of all of that, and even a solution to trying to figure out what had happened and what we would do to respond. That's
mm,
where I happened to be at the time.
mm,
So what I ended up doing immediately after that, the government decided to, well, they realized that a lot of the agencies weren't talking to each other. That's how this problem slipped through.
mhm,
So I had developed a little expertise in culture by then. I understood that if you can bring 14 different federal agencies together, you better understand culture, because
Yeah.
all of them are different. All of them have different expectations. So as a consultant, I had the opportunity to go among many of these agencies and help them understand, if you want to get everybody on the same page, here's what you must be doing from a leadership perspective.
Okay.
So I gained a lot of experience with how difficult culture is, things that you can do to get people on the same page, how you can use a leadership driven engine to make sure everybody is focused on the right things, doing the same kind of work, and helping us solve a really complex problem. So when I decided to kind of get out of the defense industry and move to North Carolina and kind of, do some sunsetting, I found that they got the same problems here. I
Yeah.
came on as a Scrum Master trying to maintain some contact with high tech, but
Yeah.
I, made my money in DC. But, it was time to get out of the DC area and come and try to just live a normal life.
Yeah.
But, most time things don't work out quite like that. So I come here and I realize the software industry is going through some of the same changes that the defense industries were going through, 10, 15 years before.
Right.
So when I try to help organizations now that are trying to produce software, and especially if they're trying to do it with offshore resources, they got the same problem. You
Same
got
problem.
people that may not understand your culture. And if
Yeah.
you don't put time and effort in making sure that is taken care of, then that will cost you money and productivity. So what I've
Wow.
managed to do now as a Scrum Master is I'm able to get everybody on the same team. I have some expertise already in developing high-performing teams. That's
Yes.
what I did in the defense industry. So I bring that same skill set to the software industry now.
Yeah.
So now I think I've been able to convince some of the clients that I've worked with that this culture piece is serious. We need to put time in it. And even though you might be doing Agile,
Yeah.
if you don't take into account your leadership team, you can't get there. Because
Right.
everybody else can do Agile at the bottom, but if the CEO and the C-suite people don't understand that, you can't fix it. So what I
Exactly.
managed to do is help them understand you have a role to play as well. And let me help you figure out how you can enable those teams, those Agile teams, to be effective. And if you do that, I can save you a lot of money.
Well, good. And I want to come back to what you just mentioned. You're talking about Agile. And I want to talk about Agile and Waterfall. But just before we move off of the subject of culture, and have you ever experienced, Nate, with some of the teams? Has there ever been issue with language barriers? Would that kind of have an issue, or would that cause problems
Yes,
within the team moving forward? And if so, how do you overcome that? Why is that?
that's a great question, sir. And what I ended up doing is actually one of my assignments that I'm still in right now is once the major client I was working with decided they wanted to go to a lot of offshore resources, I recognize that, this is not going to be as simple as they think it is. So why don't I save them some money and time and explain to them some of the difficulties they will have unless they put somebody in place that knows what I know.
Right.
They bought into it, changed my job completely. And my job then was to work directly with the offshore people and
Yes.
help them understand that, hey, here's how this company does business.
Yes.
So even though you come on as a certified Scrum Master, that's only part of what you need to know.
Right.
Let me give you the other piece of that so that there's no dip in productivity as you take over for an onshore resource.
Okay.
So I've been able to create training programs and coaching methods that allow me to get new people up to speed very quickly.
Right.
And most of the time, we've not even seen a noticeable dip in the productivity. But that's because I understand culture and how to take that out as a negative and make it a positive factor. So that's what I've done personally, and the clients have benefited because of that. So that's why I guess they keep allowing me to do, what I suggest, because I do understand culture enough that I can help them do their part to make sure that we're being productive.
And I must say, Nate, I can vouch for you. I've had a chance to work with you on some of those high tech teams, and I definitely see how you handle issues or how you deal with your team when it comes to different cultures. So you definitely one of the experts to talk about how to bring culture and make that work on these particular teams. So you mentioned Agile and Waterfall. So we know those are two different styles when it comes to the technology industry, when it comes to working with developers and software testers and all the different individuals on teams. Can you kind of give us a little bit of difference between Agile and Waterfall, and what's not only is maybe some of the difference, but which would you consider might work best for the way projects are done today?
Now, sir, you might not believe this story I'm getting ready to tell you right now,
Okay.
but what exposed me to servanthood leadership
Mm-hmm.
was working in the prison system in a nonprofit environment.
Okay.
And the model that we use was completely dependent on everybody being a servant leader.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to do that work for, over a decade.
Right.
And finally, when I was about to move to North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
I realized, wait a minute, you know a little bit about software development. You've been a project manager before. That would be something you could engage in. Well,
Mm-hmm.
as I was putting all this together, I realized, as I learned more about Agile, that the Scrum Master is what a project manager used to be,
Mm.
but everybody doesn't work directly for him like we used to do it. In
Okay.
this case, your job is to be a servant leader. Every person on that team you work for. They don't work for you, you work for them. Your
Mm-hmm.
job is to make sure every developer, every quality assurance person, every business analyst, every technical person on that team
Mm-hmm.
knows that we're in this thing together. And this Scrum Master's job is to make your job as easy as he can. He
Right.
sets the cadence for any meetings you're involved in. If you run into any impediments, it's his job to help you solve that problem. And you can come to him for anything you need. And his job is to make sure that everybody's communicated, that everybody understands the reason why we're doing this, why the work is important, and what the expectations of the organization is. So
Mm-hmm.
my job is just make your life easy. So
Right.
I love that kind of leadership.
Yeah.
I've been involved. I was a military officer, so I surely understand how to be in charge. But I'm not as comfortable with that method as I
Mm.
am on a team where everybody knows I got to do my part, and I got to make sure I'm working with everybody else that's doing their part, and
Yes.
together we can get a lot done. So
Mm.
I love Agile because that's the way it's designed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's not command and kind of command and control structure. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about a servant leader that does understand how to make life better for everybody else. So
Right.
that one fits my personality much better.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, software is different from building a bridge. If you're
Yeah.
gonna build a bridge, you need a guy that knows what he's doing. He needs to know how much steel you need, how many
Mm.
people you're gonna need. He needs to know all of that. Software
Yes.
is different from that. Software
Right.
has a complexity to it that no one guy is gonna know everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to bring a bunch of different people together with different skills, but
Mm-hmm.
merge those skills in a way that any problem that comes up, somebody on that team can deal with it.
Right.
And your Scrum Master's job again is to make sure all the mechanics work together. So
Mm-hmm.
I just love that environment. I like watching people perform at a high level. And
Yes.
if you move obstacles out of people's way, if you empower them and if you encourage them and you always have a learning environment where people are learning and getting smart together, that's
Mm-hmm.
the environment I'm more comfortable in.
Right.
So the Agile one fits me better. Waterfall, like I say, still use it. There's
Yes.
some things that you still would need that kind of structure.
Okay.
But most companies now are doing software related stuff. Everybody has apps. So
Mm-hmm.
now, since that's what you're really producing, it's complex, an agile environment would fit it better.
Okay.
So when I'm working with clients now, one of the main jobs I have is to try to help them understand the difference between waterfall and agile and to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they're doing the things they need to do to support an agile environment.
Right. So in an agile environment, Nate, so once we talk about teams, so if you have one team, you have another team, there's various teams when you're working on projects. So kind of talk about how different teams work together in an agile environment. And I know you're gonna and just kind of speak to if it depends on the size of the project. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And matter of fact, if you're working with a small company,
Mhm.
let's say they just is working on one software project. I mean, that's probably not likely, but it could happen.
Right.
Then it's not very complex. You got 3 or 4 different positions. You typically have a software developer.
Yes.
You probably have somebody that understands quality assurance well,
Hmm.
and you may have like a business analyst that understands the architecture of how things sit together.
Hmm.
And then typically you have a scrum master that kind of makes sure all these moving parts work together well.
Hmm.
For that's fairly simple to do.
Yes.
But if you're dealing with a larger company
Hmm.
that doesn't have the luxury of working with just one project at a time, may have hundreds of projects, then
Hmm.
you got to scale agile across the organization. And that probably uses a different set of skills. because now you don't not only have a Scrum Master, you got hundreds of Scrum Masters potentially. So now you got to have coaches and
Yeah.
people that can help all the Scrum Masters be on the same page, and that you can integrate those processes, those products or services they're providing. So
Mm-hmm.
that becomes an element that you got to be concerned about. So I'm also a coach in that environment. So you bring all the teams together so that they are working toward the same end.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So then, Nate, let's just kind of talk about. Okay, so you pretty much a Scrum. You know things definitely from a Scrum Master perspective, right?
Yes, sir.
So then, one of the things, say for instance, if a customer is working on a project, if it's a project or if they're working on an app, why is it important for that team leader or the Scrum Master or project manager owner? Which one? Why is it important to make sure that you set the right expectations when you're working with the client, so that they stay calm as there's problems, updates? Why is that part important, and who's responsible for making sure that the customer you set the right expectations for the customer for their project?
That's a great question, sir. Back in the old days, when we were doing mostly waterfall projects,
Mhm.
you would sit down with the client and you would pretty much design a project plan that took care of the entire project from beginning to end. You
Mhm.
could tell them cost, you could tell them effort, you could do all of that at one time. But the difficulty with that is if things changed, you got to go back and change all your project plans, your
Mhm.
timelines, all of that. The Agile, as you mentioned, is very different from Waterfall. And
Okay.
Agile, you look at the body of work and you kind of break it down into increments that you call. Might be a 2 week increment, 3 week increment. So what you do, let's use an app as an example. If I'm
Okay.
trying to help you produce an app, let's take a cell phone.
Yes.
The very basic thing might be just a phone that you make a call on. That
Mm-hmm.
might be a good enough start for you. So
Mm-hmm.
we go in and we design and we build this phone, and I come back to you as a customer and I say, okay, I think this phone will meet your expectations of what you want a phone to do. So you take the phone and you check it out. Say, hey, this is pretty cool. But you say, well, would it be possible to have other apps on this phone? Sure. What do you want? Well, I'd love to be able to text. Okay. For the next increment, we'll simply create that capability. We're creating an app that allow you to send text messages and receive them, and we'll make sure the infrastructure is there so it doesn't interfere with your phone and what the regular phone does. So
Mm-hmm.
once that's developed, I can come back to you and I can say, okay, customer, now your phone has not only the ability to make phone calls, but you can also text those same people. So you check that out, and if you're happy with it, you might say, well, wow, I like where this is going. Could you give me the capability to do email? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The next increment, we'll work on nothing but coming up with email capacity and also to integrate those three apps together
Yeah.
so that if you're on the phone and you get a text, you may hear it but it won't cut your phone off.
Okay.
And same thing with email, so you might get a notification about it but you still can use it as a phone. So what it allows you as a customer to do,
Mm-hmm.
to change what you see as the product you're looking for. You can
Right.
start off with an idea, but as things or circumstances change, you may want different things. And we'll work with you to make sure we're producing things that you want us to produce. And
Wow.
this way, however many apps you dream up, we keep building them as long as you have the resources to pay for them and a place for us to work. We can make that happen for you.
Okay. Good. Good. So Nate, let's talk about now. Let's kind of come inside. Okay. Now that we've know how to set the expectations or the expectations of the client. Let's come back to the team for just a second.
Okay.
Why is it important, Nate, for when a team is working together? Why is it important for your developers and your testers to work cohesively together? Why is that important for the project, the life of that project? If the developers are not communicating with the testers and there may be some issues, why and how would that create problems for you as a on your team? Would that create any problems for you?
Yes, sir, it sure could. Because it doesn't matter about software if it's not good software. So as a developer, I may just be trying to crank some code out and get it done. Well, the question is, are there bugs in it? Does it work as you promised it would? And that's where your testers would be in, because your testers would come in and they know what the acceptance criteria is. In other words, this software is working when it can do this. They can come back and verify that you've in fact done that. And then if you have problems, they can go back and forth with the developers to make sure that the product does what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
So those two have to be hand in hand.
Yeah.
You got to be able to get software from the person developing it to the person testing it. And then once you're satisfied that it's doing what it needs to do, now everybody's happy, including your customer. So
Right.
absolutely, those two have to be in sync. And that just has to be kind of a cycle that you make sure that what you develop, you've also tested and it works as designed.
All right, good. So Nate, let's talk about what are some of the different areas? I know you and I have kind of talked about some things before. And I know you talk a lot of times about technology in different areas, but you talk about digital media, and I know you've mentioned some things about churches as it relates to new digital media because of COVID, that situation. You want to shed some light on, how you think technology can assist churches? Just kind of speak from that perspective as well, too.
Well, be honest with you, Laron, you're the one that gave me that idea.
Okay.
Because when I found out that you understand how to design web pages,
Yes.
that's something every church could use.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're working and you have a nonprofit and you're trying to find a pipeline that you can put people in, then look at all the churches across this country.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them already have a web presence, but some of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to contact, let's say, smaller churches,
Right.
and say, hey, let me help you have a presence, especially during this pandemic. Because
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind, Laron, there are some churches that have not met since this pandemic started.
Right.
They're small,
Right.
under resourced,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't have some of the technologies they would have needed to be able to keep going. Now, a church my size
Yes.
never missed a beat, missed 1 week,
Right.
been live services ever since. Still haven't
Mm-hmm.
been back in the building, but everybody is still taking advantage of that. I would want a small church to have that same capacity.
Right.
And somebody that knows what you know, so that you can get web pages set up, so people understand what the church is trying to do. You communicate with everybody in the church. That's a huge need, and when church plays in my mind such a critical role in this country's life, that if the church is not able to operate in a way that it is designed, then lots of people get affected by that.
Right.
Plus, the church has its own way of connecting us with community. And
Yes.
then when you can communicate and keep people involved and keep people encouraged, you help everybody get through this COVID thing together. Because
Yeah.
we need to be on the same page to fight this thing,
Mm-hmm.
far as just what the CDC is saying, what the government's saying, and what we as a local economy are doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
So your media now is more important than was before, because while we're now adapting to working at home, going church online, you to me are you tie all that together. And you also, when we're looking for people that might want to look at this digital world or this high tech world that we're both involved in,
Yes.
what better than a place like this to do that? So I'm real
Yeah.
excited once I found that you have a core competency that would benefit every small organization that's under resourced, but with people like yourself that could come in and help them move to a new level. It changes the dynamics of the whole game. So I'm excited about that.
Well, definitely, Nate. Well, definitely we need people like you and I together, because technology from different perspectives, and I know from different. But once we come together, then that's what really makes this kind of a platform, very valuable. But Nate, let's just kind of talk about the subject in another way as well too. We talked earlier about why this platform is come about, is to be a part of the digital media platform, talk about the issues in the Black community, talk about and promote Black businesses. I want to get your input on this. Is there, in the media or in the news, it talks about some of the disparities, some of the injustices, some of the hardships that minorities face in the technology industry. You and I have had these different conversations, and we understand them from inside. Could you kind of give a little bit of insight on where do you feel that is? Is that true, or to what degree, or how would you comment on that?
That's a pretty profound question, Iran. First of all, uh, having been in the military and understanding a service-oriented attitude. I'm all about helping everybody to get to a level that they make a livable wage. They believe they're contributing to something significant. So regardless of race, creed, gender, anything you can do to balance that out so that everybody that wants to contribute has an opportunity, that's something I'm interested in.
Okay.
And surely in our own community, there's been some probably things in place, intended or not intended, that have prevented some of our folks from even considering something like high tech.
Right.
And when you don't have everybody contributing that's capable, I think the nation loses. It's not just that person that loses. The problems to me are significant enough with something like this virus that we, still shaking our head trying to understand how to get back to normal, that you cannot afford to have somebody sitting on the sideline simply because they don't have access or don't have the training.
Right.
And this digital media is a perfect way to do that. Anybody that has high-speed internet, we ought to be able to get them a platform that allows them to be trained, to allow them to be educated. And you just create a forum that helps every single person that wants to do something significant. I'm all for people around the world doing well, but I oftentimes look at America first. That's just an attitude that I have. Not that I don't want anybody overseas to get whatever they have, but generally we have problems here that we need to solve as well. So I'm all about helping everybody, but you normally start at home because that's you can get there sooner and maybe make a difference, and then you can scale and then help people, overseas as well. But I just look at this digital media that you've exposed me to. It's been an important factor in getting us to the point that every willing, capable person has an opportunity to contribute, and I think we can provide that.
And definitely we'll continue to have different businesses come on many different levels, and we'll begin to talk to them and get their input, see where they feel where technology is going as well too. So I know you talked about some points that you wanted to bring up, and I know we talked about Waterfall and Agile. Is there anything else different? Is there any other points that you'd want to bring up for this session right now, Nick?
Well, I'm pretty, I kind of liked it. You kind of got me spoiled with this technology thing. To be honest with you, once I became a consultant, I didn't really focus on the technology as much. My job was understanding leadership.
Yes.
And I understood that very well, so I could walk in any organization, whether government, corporate, or not for profit.
Yes.
And if I got to the right people, I could help them decide on a vision, get everybody aligned with that vision, and make a tremendous difference for that bottom line, whether it was money or services or products. So, but now you've kind of got that bug reignited in me about what high tech can do. You're pulling me out of my comfort zone, really. And I'm now saying, okay, Nate, you got the leadership piece, you do that very well, but how much more effective might you be to merge what you understand about leadership and communication with just pure software development and resources that you could put at somebody's fingertip? So you got me going. I'm excited again, and I'm talking a different language because I'm trying to get younger folks excited about this. This is a cool job. It might not seem as cool as playing basketball, but let me tell you what, statistics wise, your chance a lot better with us. I ain't trying to kill nobody's dream. You be whatever you want to be, but I don't want anybody to miss the opportunity that if you get a injury where you can't play ball, I want you to still be able to make a decent living, and this media will allow them to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you talk about media. I mean, sports and stuff like that. I'm definitely a sports guy, and I thought one day I had aspirations to be an NFL guy. One of my friends, he's now he's like the commissioner of the CFL, and him and I played football together. He went on to have a successful professional career. I wound up breaking my leg twice. That ended my football career. And from there, that's when I began to get into the technology realm. And like you said, it's a cool job. It's really a cool job. What I love about this industry on so many levels, you get to work with so many different people from all over the world, so many different nationalities. and just seeing how people work together. It is definitely a fun job. And that's what we are creating this platform to do, to also bring on businesses. I'll talk about my nonprofit organization in a little bit, and to just kind of talk about the details of how we can use this platform to advocate for more Black youth and adults to get into this industry. But we're not limited to that, but we're definitely making a major focus to make sure that, you know, our people, minority people, definitely get into this industry. Okay, so Nate, since we're talking about that, let me say this, because, you know, I like to talk about robotics and stuff like that. And we talk about where technology is going. A lot of times people talk about robotics, right? But a lot of times people say robotics is eliminating jobs. Is that true?
Yes, sir. It can, but that's no different from automation. That any software can also eliminate a job. But what we need people to know is to create a job as well.
Exactly.
So no loss for you. If you continue to be a learner, you continue to train yourself. And here's something else. Newsflash, in case a young person doesn't know this. You don't get to just train and get a degree and do that for the rest of your life.
Right.
Most people end up with, you know, even right now, you can look back and people have worked anywhere from 5 to 10 different jobs. That's probably only going to increase.
Yeah.
So you want folks to know that as long as you continue to learn, and again, your digital media been a perfect way to do that, to keep your skills sharp and change as the needs change of the organization of the country. And you always have a place. And now that most people are working, you know, sitting at home instead of outside, you know, cutting trees down or whatever they might be doing, you can do that. So even age is less of a factor because you don't have to get up and, you know, drive across the state. You get up and get your coffee and sit down at your computer at home. So this pandemic, even though to some extent devastating, has created new opportunities that I think you're plugging into. You're figuring out how to take what one might have looked at as a disadvantage and make it an enormous advantage. So I like the work you're doing here.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the part where you talk about age no longer makes a difference. The way technology is today, especially in the software field, I started on the hardware end as a network LAN administrator, so dealing with servers, routers, desktop computers, you know, laying cable, pulling wire, this, that, and the other. That was a lot of physical work from the technology industry. But the software part of it, it's all about that knowledge you have up here. You can have a cup of coffee. You can work with the smartest people all over the world if you understand software. And so it makes the job a lot easier. And definitely, and technology is going to play a role in that. And there's just so many jobs coming down the pipe that you're going to need to understand machine learning, automation, and artificial intelligence, as I said, as well too, right, Nate?
Yes. Well, you know, there's only so many LeBron Jameses out there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more people that probably could be a very successful engineer, a very successful computer programmer, a very, quality assurance person, Scrum Masters. All of those roles, most of us can learn that capability.
Yeah.
So now with this whole work from home thing,
you
can make good money and never leave your home right now. That's a new world that we're just starting to explore. And I think the pandemic has made that need even more significant right now. So let's take advantage of this wave and get as many people in the pipeline as possible and then get more productive people making a difference for themselves and their families. You know, how can you not be excited about that?
I'm excited about it, Nate.
Okay.
In my job, I just want to get more people involved, more people excited, and, you know, working with you and we're talking about this, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, well, I'm excited, sir. You got me re-excited. You know, I've worked most of what a normal career would have expected of me, but I've been fortunate enough to be healthy still. Mine still works well. I said, don't get out of the game this early. Ain't that much golf in the world, man. Get back in the game and help somebody. So now I feel way more obligated to help younger people understand that, man, you can make a significant difference. The one thing I learned in the military is very focused about mission.
Yes.
Most regular jobs aren't so much. If you work at Walmart, you may not walk out at the end of the day and say, you know what? Like I used to say when I was in the military, some person walked home today because I did my job well. Not every job does that.
Right.
But you know what? Now that software is becoming so ubiquitous where it's everywhere, who
everywhere.
knows? Maybe what you did make a difference for somebody to go home today.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to miss that. I
Yes.
want everybody to be able to go home and say, man, you deserve, you get your little workout in and you can go in and take a nap because the world is better because you got up this morning. And I want every person to have that same feel. I know what it feels like. And I want to make sure everybody that wants to gets to do something like that.
Yeah. You talk about what do you do making somebody get home or helping them get home. Technology is to a point now. You got autonomous cars driving by themselves, autonomous systems, things of that sort. You can be a part of this industry where you helping to put those kind of applications in, but we need people to come into this industry to help make sure those applications are safe, get our home family members home safe. But we need all the capable minds willing. It's a great industry, people. So just get on board. We're here to
And,
help you, here to support you.
and one last thing, sir. When I was in the military, I helped launch the satellites that do GPS. So
Yes.
now GPS is ubiquitous. Every vehicle pretty much
Every,
has it already in it. So whenever I'm driving down the road now and I'm looking at my GPS, I think back years ago when I was sitting in a satellite operation station
wow.
watching this satellite and never knew that as a civilian, I'd be driving in my own car and then not even worry about where I got to go because I'm trusting this satellite that I helped launch, years ago to get me where I got to go. That's a pretty cool feeling. And I think a lot of other kids would enjoy that same feeling. I want to make that happen for a lot of folks.
Well, we're gonna continue to do that, Nate. For me, that kind of wraps this session, Nate. And if anybody wants to come onto the platform, if you have a Black business that's in technology and you want to come on and talk about your business, that's what this platform is for. And so we're looking forward to a lot of success, a lot of conversations on our this segment, which is called Let's Talk Tech. That's what we're talking about in this segment right here. So we look forward to it. I look forward to it. Thanks again, Nate. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the invitation, sir. This has been a blast for me. And like I said, you got me. I may even try to start to learn how to code a little bit because I'm getting jealous of what programmers do. So I appreciate you for getting me re-engaged in some of the things that some of the young folks would probably find an opportunity to do. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Great mentor, brother. You're a great mentor.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay.